everyone, welcome back to our Maya 2020 tutorial series on our construction worker here. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Today we're going to work on creating a set-driven key for our hand, and we're going to mirror all our controllers over. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start by selecting our control here and adding an attribute. So we're going to go to Edit, Add Attribute. We're going to set this called Fist. Minimum is 0, maximum is 10. And we'll say OK. So now we're going to need to create a set-driven key for our fist here. So we're going to go to Create a set-driven key. So we can click on this icon here. That'll open up our set-driven key. If this doesn't do it for you, you can, or you don't have this on your shelf underneath the Rigging tab, you can go to Key and Set-driven Key Set. Same thing. Okay. So this object here is going to be our driver, so we'll load that one up. And the fist is going to be the driving attribute. Now we're going to need to select all the fingers, so we'll just select each of the fingers like so. And we're going to go to Select Hierarchy. That'll select all of the fingers at the same time. And we're going to go to Load Driven. And we're going to make sure that all of these are selected. If you miss any, there's going to be some problems. Let's go ahead and go from the top. And we're going to go all the way down to the bottom. So that way we know we have all of them. And we want to rotate X, Y, and Z as our driven attributes. So we're going to go ahead and select Rotate X, Y, and Z. And we're going to click Key. Okay. So now if I go through each one of my joints here, you can see over here that they all have this blue on the rotate X, Y, and Z, and that's good. Also, you can see that it's still set to 0. That's good. Now we're going to move this up to 10. And again, we're going to make sure that on the driven objects that all of them are selected. And we're going to go back and we're going to make sure that they are rotated into the fist position that we want. So I'm selecting them all like so, just because by doing it this way, that from the bottom up, that you get this rotation value that makes it to where the fist kind of closes naturally almost. So if I rotate in this one axis, so I'm just using this one y-axis to rotate them. Okay, and then I'm going to pull them in a little bit tighter just because this is a maximum. Fist. Now you gotta remember there's no skin on these right now, so that you can't actually see if this is gonna make it to where it's gonna bite into the palm of the hand at all, because you don't have the fingers going in or the palm turning at all. Okay, and then for the thumb is a little bit different. This is actually the reason why we have all three axes, because we're going to rotate the thumb, and it rotates straight back, which is not the way that a thumb actually works. It rotates to the side a little bit, right? So we're going to rotate that one a little bit. We're going to rotate this one a little bit. And I'm going to actually rotate this one up a smidge like that. But make sure it's not intersecting these fingers down here. And I'll hit Key. Okay. Let's go ahead and test this out, make sure we did this right. If anything wasn't done right, this hand won't open and close. So let's go ahead and make sure that our attribute is working. So if I go to 0 to 10, there it is. Our hand is clenching and unclenching. That's good. All right. So now we need to repeat the process on the other side. So we're going to need the controls in the exact same position as they are on this side, on the opposite side. So let's go ahead and take care of that first. So we're going to go ahead and select the wrist and elbow and this shoulder control, and we're going to duplicate them. So we're going to hit Control D to duplicate them. We're done with the set-driven key for now, so I'm going to close this. The controls down here, we want to be in the exact same position, so we're going to use a group. So that'll move it to where the pivot point's at the origin. So I'll hit Control G with those two objects selected. And then I will put a -1 in the scale X. That'll move it towards now in the exact same position on the other side. But I don't want them to stay inside the group, so I'm going to unparent them. So I'll open up the group, select both objects, press Shift P, that'll unparent them, and then I'll be able to go back up to the top up here and delete the group. There we go. Alright, now there's some things that need to be changed with naming anyways, so I didn't actually ever name the top one up here. It's the reason why it's yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one underscore L. This one over here, I'll call this one underscore R. And we're going to go down the chain and fix all of them the same. So this one here will go from L back to R. Back to R. There we go. Okay, so those are all fixed. I want this also to be inside the layer that's on the right side, so I'll go ahead over to here and right mouse button click and add selected objects. Same thing for this one here. This one was never added. Just go ahead and add this one to the left side. Nope. Add selected object. There we go. So now, oh, we missed one. This one here also needs to go to the right. Add selected object. There we go. Now they're all appropriately colored, and we're good to go. Before we do the set driven key on this side, we need to hook the things back up the way they're hooked up on this side. So for instance, this control here needs to do a orient constraint on this one. So we're going to go to back to rigging, and we're going to do constraint and orient, and make sure that it still has maintain offsets on, which mine does. Okay. And I also want to make sure that we're doing a point constraint on this IK handle. So we're going to select the controller, shift select the IK handle, do constraint and point. Same thing, make sure maintain offsets are on. Okay, so that's good. Finally, we can now do our pull vector. So we can select our IK handle. I'm sorry, reversed order. Select the controller first, shift select the IK handle, go to constrain and pull vector. There we go. Alright, so now this is all hooked up the same way as on this side. Oh, minus one thing. We don't have, I don't think we have an IK handle that's handling this one here. We never created one. So we need to actually do that. Looks like it didn't come over with the mirror, and that's okay. Let's go ahead and actually while we're at it, that reminds me, let's go ahead and also make sure that this IK handles are, well, looks like we didn't get all these IK handles. So this is the one on the right side, this one on the left. So we'll call this one IK wrist L, and this one will be IK wrist R. Okay, so we just are missing this one up here that makes up the shoulder. So let's go ahead and add that one in as well. So let's open the submenu, make sure we're on single chain again. And we're going to do one from right here to right here. Okay. Good. All right, but we also want this to be called IK clav left. I'm sorry, right. No, it looks like it's R. Sorry. We've got to keep consistent here. And we're going to select the controller. We're going to control select the IK handle, and we're just going to do a constrain, point constraint. Okay, so that makes it to where now we can control the shoulder if we want to do a dip. Okay, so that's good. Let's go ahead and jump back into creating our set driven key. So this is going to mirror the process of the other side. So if the last time felt a little unclear, you had some issues, we're just going to rinse and repeat here. But also, it looks like we need to do a little bit of cleanup on one of these guys here at least. Let's see if it's the same thing on this one. Yeah, so you see how there's values over here in the rotate and the scale negative. Those tend to be a problem. Let's see if we can clear those out before we go forward. We're going to freeze transforms. There we go. And we'll freeze the transform. Sometimes you'll run into issues where I'll say things are already connected, and we didn't end up with that in this case. But in that case, you might have to disconnect stuff so you can clear out the transforms, then reconnect it with the constraints. But for us, we came off pretty good. Except for, it looks like we ended up having a little bit of movement because we froze the transforms. Oh, I see what happened. So it rotated it. You see how? Okay, so I gotta refix this one. So I'll manually rotate these back to be in the right spot. It's okay that sometimes this stuff happens, especially on video. That way you can see how it's being fixed. And that this stuff kind of happens to everyone, pretty much. And it's not just you. Alright, there we go. Make sure that everything still works. Oh, it wanted to flip back. Okay, so let's go ahead and break these constraints. Break connections. So the reason why I wanted to snap back is because it had that O-ring constraint on there, so as soon as I moved it, it wanted to go back to the inputs that I was getting from the hand, which was the 180 value from when we froze the transforms from the other side. So that was just, you know, a little bit of a mess up on some of the order of when you mirror things over. So not a big deal though. Is that all good? That looks good. All right. So now we can go back, select the control, shift select this joint here, and then redo our O-ring constraint. There we go. So now we should be good, right? Let's go ahead and test that out. Everything's good again. Okay, good. All right, so now we can go back and do our set-driven key. So it already has the fist attribute added because we mirrored it from the other side. So now we can go ahead and add in our set-driven key. So let's go back to our rigging drop-down here, our rigging tab. Double-click this one, opens up our set-driven key. Okay, and we're going to say that this is going to be our driver. And each one of our fingers here are our driven, right? So I'm just going to select each one of them. And I'm going to go to select and hierarchy. That'll give us all the joints on the inside. And I'll say load driven. Okay, so fist is the driving attribute on the driver. We're going to select all the joints inside the driven. And we want to rotate, have control over the X, Y, and Z. So we're going to say key there. All right. Now we want to put them at a fist state. So when they're at 10, put in the 10 attribute over here, and then we can go back here and rotate these guys up. So we're going to go to, again, select hierarchy. I'll just go ahead and add this one to my shelf. There we go. And, oh. Let's try that one more time. Okay. So the reason why I was doing that is because it's selecting the hierarchy from the top. So I have to actually select it from the bottom up again. I was trying to do a little bit of a shortcut, but it's not wanting to take, and that's okay. We'll just do it the way we know will work. E for rotate, and we're just going to rotate these guys up on the y-axis. Okay, and we'll just dial in that fist a little bit more. That's good. Okay, and then we'll take care of the thumb. And we'll rotate it in a little bit. Okay, and then we'll key this. Let's go ahead and test that out. So we're going to come back over here, we're make sure it works, everything looks good. Okay, we're done with the set-driven keys. Excellent. All right, so that's done. Let's go ahead and do a control for the head. So we're going to go back to create NURBS primitives. We're going to create our NURBS primitives, not polygon primitives, and we're going to create ourselves another circle. Okay. I'm going to scale this one up a little bit. That should be good. Something about like that. Okay, I'm moving it up a little bit higher than the joint that's pivoting off of is actually at. And that's just because I don't want to clip this controller down here, so it's easier for me to do, easier for me to grab. So I'm going to move the pivot point from here down to this joint here. So I'm going to press D. That'll make it to where I can then change the pivot point. I'll hold down V and then middle mouse button drag it to where it snaps down here where that cluster is at, and that's perfect. Okay, I'll press D again, and then I'll freeze the transforms. So we'll go back to our poly modeling tab, freeze transforms. Okay, and this one's going to be called control head. Okay, so this control is going to do a parent constraint on this joint, which means it'll make it rotate and move forward. Okay, so we'll do a parent constraint. Oops, might not have had maintain offsets turned on. Let's see here. Maintain offsets is turned on. It just doesn't like that. Okay, so let's go the other way. We're going to select the control, and we're going to shift select this joint here, and we're going to do constrain, orient constraint, and we're going to make sure maintain offsets is still turned on. And let's hit apply again. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. Let's go ahead and just add in the parent or the point constraint afterwards, which will give us the same thing as the parent constraint. Make sure maintain offsets is turned on, which it is, and we'll hit apply. There we go. So now it's working. So now we can go ahead and rotate this joint down, and we can also have it to where his head turns. Okay, and that's good too. All right, and this one will be part of our center controls. Come on, keeps wanting to pop this one open. There we go. All right, last thing we're going to do for this video is create a so we had a hips sway control, but we also want a hips control, which controls the upper body but not necessarily the spline IK. So we're going to use this extra control we had out here for a while and finish that off. So we'll bring this one over here, and what we're going to do is we want it to be, let's snap it onto this joint down here. Then we'll bring it up right there. That's probably good right in there. Scale it out in the x-axis to where it comes out the sides a little bit. And we'll grab the vertexes in the front. We'll move those out. Same thing in the back here. We want to be able to grab our controls. We don't want them hiding on the inside of our model. This isn't about aesthetics, about tucking it in to where you can't see the controls very well. It's about being able to grab the controls really easily. Same thing on this side. Okay, so that's probably good right there. Let's go ahead and freeze the transforms on it. And we're going to call this one hips control. This will be part of the center group, or center layer. Okay. And this is going to have a parent constraint on this joint right here. So we're going to select the control, shift select this joint right here, and we're going to do a constraint, parent constraint. Okay, so that makes it to where now I can grab this and don't worry about the arms freaking out for now. That's just because the controls are locking them in place. But we're going to go back in our next lesson and deal with parenting these things down properly and doing the finishing touches to some of our rig. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. Let's go ahead and save. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next lesson.